voice of free speech. The truth delivered. Common sense for the American people. Welcome to the Scott Jennings Show.
NASA is forced to postpone its lunar mission. We have a live report on that in just a few minutes. Don Lemon cries to Jimmy Kimmel, blue state policies are making life miserable and causing people to move away. Kristi Noem sending body cameras to federal officers in Minneapolis, and new national polling paints a clear picture. Democrats are completely out of step with the American people on illegal immigration. It is Tuesday, February 3rd. This is the Scott Jennings Show here on Salem. Common sense for the American people. Broadcasting live from Boston, Massachusetts today. I guess, Jared, we're broadcasting from stolen land. Jared, you should have called Elizabeth Warren for permission to broadcast here from her reservation. What were you thinking? You didn't call Pocahontas. After the show, by the way, Jared and I have to drive out to Dartmouth in New Hampshire for a debate tonight about the future of the Republican Party. My sparring partner is Anna Navarro. Yes, that Anna Navarro. And we'll be back on the air on CNN tomorrow night in New York City. Let us get to the news. President Trump is meeting with President Gustavo Petro of Colombia today, a constant thorn in his side. It's closed press, they say, but we'll keep an eye on this meeting. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says body cameras have been sent to Minneapolis for use by federal officers. ICE and Border Patrol will now wear body cams. The president says that's a good idea. Here's cut 10.
Kristi Noem just announced that you're deploying body cameras to Minneapolis. What's your thinking behind this decision, and do you want to see this?
Well, it wasn't my decision. I leave it to her. They generally tend to be good for law enforcement because people can't lie about what's happening. So it's generally speaking, I think 80% good for law enforcement. But if she wants to do that, I'm okay with it.
This news comes as national polling emerges on how Americans feel about the immigration debate. And it turns out that Democrats have badly misread the electorate. The latest Harvard-Harris survey is out, and 2/3 of Americans, fully 67%, say that yes, local police and jails should hand illegal immigrants over to federal law enforcement. Of course, the Tim Walz and Jacob Frey position, along with a slew of other blue state mayors and governors, is that they will not cooperate. They will not hand illegal aliens over to the feds. Democrats, it seems, are badly out of step with the American people. Next hour, we'll talk to a pollster, Brent Buchanan of Signal, who has even more data, making it clear the Democrats do not speak for the American people when it comes to coddling illegal immigrants and attacking federal law enforcement. Speaking of Minneapolis, it continues to be a lawless place with random people setting up roadblocks in the streets, stopping citizens who are driving through and running their license plates against some sort of database to determine whether the vehicle belongs to ICE. Take a listen to this interaction at one of these roadblocks, cut 11.
Hey, how's it going?
You said his license plates are ICE?
Good, yeah. I was just saying, it looks like in our system, your plates came up as an ICE plate. That doesn't seem like it's the case, but I just wanted to come through and see what was up and talk to you, see how you were doing. Okay, I figured, yeah.
I mean, he's clearly symbolic.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Not clear to me whether anyone has been arrested in Minneapolis for setting up these illegal roadblocks, but there is evidence that Democrats across the country are planning to replicate these paramilitary tactics of these Minneapolis radicals Here's Maine Senate candidate Graham Plattner. This is the Bernie Sanders supporter with a Nazi tattoo. Cut 2.
And I will say to the people of Minneapolis, we in Maine are watching with awe and inspiration, like what the people of Minneapolis have been able to put together, the networks they have built, the organizational structure, the tactics and the strategies that they're using to resist. We in Maine are looking at them and using them as a blueprint because we're very convinced that we are seeing the beginning of the exact same kind of operation here.
There you have it, folks. Democrats around the country are planning to block your roads, check your license plates, and generally make your community miserable, all so they can keep illegal aliens in your town. Disgraced former CNN host Don Lemon predictably showed up on Jimmy Kimmel's show last night to cry about being arrested for illegally entering a church a couple of weekends ago. Lemon says the feds wanted to scare him, and they made him uncomfortable when they arrested him. Here's cut 12.
Well, you're right about more than just a waste of resources. They want that. They want to embarrass you. They want to intimidate you. They want to instill fear, and so that's why they did it that way.
Instill fear, you say, Don Lemon? Well, here's a flashback to what Don Lemon said the day that he and his band of radical agitators invaded the Baptist church in Minneapolis. Cut 13.
You heard what some of the folks said in there, that this is, they shouldn't be there and, they shouldn't be uncomfortable and this is our house and whatever. That's what protesting is about, is to make people uncomfortable. You may not like it.
For Don Lemon, it seems to me what is good for the goose is good for the gander. Up on Capitol Hill, Republicans in the House, led by Speaker Mike Johnson, have just broken the Democratic shutdown, voting 217 to 215 moments ago to fund the government, reopen the government. But questions remain over DHS funding long term as Democrats continue to push for defunding federal immigration enforcement. But for today, another win for Magic Mike Johnson and the House Republicans. Also in Washington, conservatives are pushing for the passage of the SAVE Act, which would, among other things, require documentary proof of U.S. citizenship before registering an individual to vote in a federal election. Now, there is overwhelming support for ensuring that only citizens vote and for providing voter ID when they do. This morning on CNN, polling director Harry Enton called it this way. Here's cut 9.
Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote. So something of a non.
Fully 83% of the American people support photo ID before you can vote. And to reiterate, black voters, 76%, white voters, 85%, Latino voters, 82%. Now, Chuck Schumer, the Senate Democratic leader, calls all of this Jim Crow 2.0. Now, when you hear them bring out that old chestnut of a talking point, you know they really have nothing. But how can it be when Jim Crow 2.0, when black voters themselves overwhelmingly support voter ID? Again, black voters support showing ID, 76%. A white Democrat from New York City, it seems to me, is telling black voters they are too stupid to know what is best for them. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the modern Democratic Party in a nutshell. This is the Scott Jennings Show here on Salem. We're broadcasting live from the Salem installation in Boston, Massachusetts today, right near Boston Harbor. It is common sense for the American people. We do have more news on aches and pains, and we've gone right to the source here. Let me share a story from a listener. His name is Rod. He lives in Texas. He says, I am 64 years old, and I used to build houses on the side. Years of hard physical work left me with excruciating back pain that became unbearable. I finally gave Relief Factor a try, and within 4 days, most of the pain subsided. Over the next few weeks, it continued to improve. And Rod said, and I quote, "Being pain-free is indescribable. We have seen improvements in the Jennings household." I spoke to my father last night. He made his winter sojourn to Florida. After all that driving, he said his back was feeling good. No aches and pains. He's looking forward to an active winter of golfing and doing the things he likes to do. And he's been religiously using Relief Factor. In fact, before he left on his trip, he said, "Where is the Relief Factor? I have to load it into the car." If pain is holding you back, you should try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start and see how it goes for you. Call 1-800-4RELIEF or go to relieffactor.com. Coming up, Jim Sturgis from the Pioneer Institute here in Boston will assail blue state policies that are driving everyone crazy. Stay with us. It's Scott Jennings here on Salem.
The man who made CNN safe for conservatives again. Here's Scott Jennings.
It is Tuesday, February 3rd, live from Boston. 2 bits of breaking news to bring to you. The United States military, an F-35 to be exact, has shot down an Iranian drone as it approached the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea. Don't want to mess with those F-35s, I can tell you that. And we have a date. The Clintons have agreed to be deposed by the House Oversight Committee with Chairman Jamie Comer. He's a dog with a bone, folks. They're going to do it February 26th and 27th. Hillary on day 1 and Bill on day 2. We're going to look forward to tracking that. This is the Scott Jennings Show. We are in Boston. I wanted to check in on how things are going here in the Bay State, a blue state. How are people living here in Massachusetts? On the line to talk a little bit about what's going on here is Jim Sturgis, the executive director of the Pioneer Institute. Jim, welcome to the show. Glad to have you in.
Pleasure to be with you, and welcome to Boston.
Thank you very much. Jim, I was looking at a chart. The chart says domestic net migration by state, cumulative change, April 1st, 2020 to July 1st, 2025. And Massachusetts had lost 182,145 of its population in that 5-year period. What is going on in Massachusetts from your perspective? Why are people fleeing the Bay State?
Well, Scott, it's for about 30 years we had blue dog Democrats and Republicans working together to cut tax a couple of dozen times. We did a lot to shed that label of Taxachusetts, and since really 2018 and especially 2022, we've done what California, New York, Illinois, and other blue states have done, which is to put in place either high earner taxes or wealth taxes, and they're still talking about it. I mean, California's thinking about another one. Rhode Island's thinking about both a high earners tax and a wealth tax, and it is driving people away. I mean, for 30 years we were one of the top states in terms of economic growth. We're always ranked highly on competitiveness. We're just shedding people. They're making a choice. I mean, states have made lots of policy changes over the last 5-10 years. About 25 have cut taxes. We're one of the few that's increased our taxes dramatically. And people are leaving, young people, older people, people with companies, investors. And it's really, we're one of the only 4 states in the country. We've lost jobs, private sector jobs. The rest of the country has grown them like crazy.
I was looking on your website at the Pioneer Institute, which, by the way, pioneerinstitute.org, if you're interested out there. You had a study that said net out-migration of wealth from Massachusetts nearly quintupled from 2012 to 2021. Money, wealth just flowing out of Massachusetts. Why is that, and what have the consequences to the state been?
Well, it's simple math. In real terms, the state budget has increased by about 30% in 15 years, and people's household income has only grown 13%. There are many people who say that Massachusetts is not investable because of policies that the city of Boston advances, but also the cost of doing business here. Scott, I guess what I put in very simple terms. Look, North Carolina is not that different from Massachusetts in terms of industry mix, the size of the state. I mean, North Carolina's got the research triangle, it's got Charlotte, it's got finance, it's got healthcare, it's got professional, scientific, technical businesses and jobs just like we do. They have grown their job base in the past 5 years by 255,000 jobs. We've lost 25,000 jobs. I mean, it's just there's no real opportunity here because people are not investing because the policies are not welcoming.
Jim, I've got about 30 seconds. I did want to ask you a question about one Democrat who is in office here. I saw a story the other day about the state auditor, Diana DiZoglio. She looked like me like she was trying to do something right, and she was fighting with some of these old school Democrats in the legislature. Is Auditor DiZoglio someone that, I know you're a conservative think tank, but do you think she's on the right track when it comes to auditing and ferreting out waste, fraud, and abuse in Massachusetts state government?
Absolutely. Look, if you look at polls 10 years ago, people in Massachusetts were still thinking that they could trust the state government with their dollars. If you look at any of the polling now, with the state government saying, no way, we're not going to allow ourselves to get audited, she really put her thumb on an issue. Now about 75% of the people don't trust their government with their money. So she's definitely onto something.
That voice you're hearing, Jim Sturgis, a member of the Pioneer Institute here in Boston, Massachusetts. Jim, thanks for chatting with us today. We look forward to having you back. We're going to take a break. When we come back, breaking news, NASA scrapping its lunar launch. We'll find out why from the source. Stay with us. Hey, it's Scott. I want to talk to you about our friends at Balance of Nature. You can find them, by the way, at balanceofnature.com. They have this thing called the Balance of Nature Whole Health System. These supplements are perfect for a resolution in the new year. It's kind of tough to stick with New Year's resolutions, and that's why Balance of Nature's Whole Health System supplements are one of the easiest ways to do it. They're very versatile. You do 2 scoops of fiber and spice and mix it easily into drinks, and it adds a warm, aromatic depth. You can also open 3 of your fruit supplements and mix the powder into a smoothie, or sprinkle 3 of the veggie supplements over one of the savory dishes that you're having for dinner. It's called Balance of Nature's Whole Health System. These supplements include 47 ingredients of 100% whole fruits, vegetables, spices, and fibers, perfect for your daily routine. 50% off if you do it now for 1 year when you subscribe to the Whole Health System from our friends at Balance of Nature. Get it at balanceofnature.com.
You've heard the narratives. Now get the truth. It's the Scott Jennings Show.
And it is Tuesday, February 3rd. Jared, we already lost a month. Where did it go? It's Tuesday, February 3rd here on the Scott Jennings Show. We have breaking news, by the way. NASA said early this morning that it is delaying its mission to send 4 astronauts on a journey around the moon after issues arose during a critical test of this enormous rocket. Bethany Stevens from NASA joins us live from the Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral shortly to discuss. First, I need to give you a quick word about America's 250th anniversary from our friends at Americans for Prosperity. They want to talk about an idea that's worth revisiting, and that is the pursuit of happiness. Our founders envisioned the freedom to work hard, raise a family, and worship freely. Here's what they did not mean: big government programs and handouts. Our friends at Americans for Prosperity believe the pursuit of the American dream is a core part of what makes this country exceptional, and that's why I am proud to partner with them. If you believe in the American dream and want to celebrate what makes America special, go to this website, A250toolkit.com, A250toolkit.com, where Americans are sharing their story of how they're keeping the American dream alive. Real stories about opportunity, sacrifice, and taking responsibility, and not waiting around for permission or government handouts. Go to A250toolkit.com, learn more, share your own story, because the American dream isn't a big government program. It is our pursuit of happiness. It's Scott Jennings on Salem, and joining us live to discuss this NASA rocket launch that has been delayed, but not permanently, is the press secretary and official spokeswoman for NASA. Her name is Bethany Stevens, and she is at the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral. Bethany, we're honored to have you on the show. Welcome in.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott.
Of course. Thank you. I want to first just ask you about the news. What happened this morning that is causing the Artemis rocket flight delay?
Absolutely. Yesterday morning, we undertook the wet dress rehearsal, which is a fueling test of our Space Launch System rocket, the SLS, that's out at Launch Pad 39B here at Kennedy Space Center. We do these tests prior to any launches to ensure that our vehicles are ready to safely transport crew into space. And throughout that test, we encountered a couple of challenges, which is precisely why we conduct these tests, so that we can find them and address them prior to the actual launch day. As a result of that, we're going to take this rocket back in, and we are going to address these issues. And we are going to take the rocket back out to the pad and then pursue launch.
And it says here that you have future available launch opportunities from March 6th through March 9th. You could do it on March 11th, and you also have additional dates in April. Is it your anticipation that you'll try again on March the 6th?
We're looking at March right now. We have not solidified a specific date there, but we are optimistic that the March window will be a go.
All right. That's Bethany Stevens with NASA talking to us about the Artemis launch. It has been delayed. We're looking at dates in March and April. Bethany, when this rocket leaves Earth, tell me, what are you hoping to accomplish with the mission? It doesn't land on the moon. It goes around the moon. But what is the purpose of this this lunar mission?
Absolutely. So this is potentially the farthest Americans or anyone will have gone from Earth ever. So it's historic in that regard, but this is the first step in terms of crewed missions as a part of the Artemis campaign that will help us to eventually get American boots back on the lunar surface, but also to establish a lunar presence. So that means, per the President's national space policy, that we're going to establish a lunar base and continue using what we learned from that to go onwards to Mars and even further than ever before.
So this will be the furthest away from Earth that human beings have ever been. That's a cool fact. And we haven't been to the moon in over 53 years. The president, of course, would like to establish a moon base, as you pointed out. When you look at the old missions, the old NASA missions to the moon and all the work that was done over the decades, how helpful is looking at that old tape, the old data, the old missions? How helpful is all that in guiding how you plan out this lunar launch and the idea of going back to the moon here in the next few years?
It's very helpful. You'll see that on Apollo 8, the last time that we went around the moon, that it followed a very similar flight path to what we're looking at for Artemis 2. So we're definitely able to gain insights from those previous missions. But you'll also note that the NASA administrator, Jared Isaacman, has said that it's sad that we ever lost sight of the moon to begin with. So as you mentioned, the president has indicated his desire to go back to the moon. Actually, under his first administration, he established the Artemis program so that we could get Americans back on the lunar surface. And now we're one step closer to that with Artemis 2 and then on to Artemis 3.
So we haven't been to the moon in 53 years. Is it the administrator and the president's anticipation that American astronauts will step foot on the moon before Donald Trump leaves office?
Absolutely, before 2028, and we're working on that diligently even throughout Artemis 2 preparations. We're working on the human landing system, which is what's going to enable us to put those American boots back on the moon. We're working on the spacesuits, which you've all seen the iconic shot of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and all of the other people who have walked on the surface of the moon. We're looking to do that again, and we're looking to do it before the president leaves office.
That voice you're hearing is Bethany Stevens. She is the press secretary and official spokeswoman for NASA. You can follow her, by the way, on X at NASA Spokes, S-P-O-X, at NASA Spokes. So you mentioned a moment ago that the president and Administrator Isaacman of NASA have a national space policy. Tell us about the holistic goals of the national space policy. I know we want to go to the moon, but overall, what are we trying to accomplish in space? How will it benefit the American people?
Absolutely. It's no secret that we have a huge geopolitical rival in China. It's also no secret that China is making huge progress on their own lunar missions. The Chinese National Space Agency, CNSA, has indicated that they aim to get to the moon before 2030. As we just spoke about, we are hoping to get back to the moon before 2028 is over. That said, we're in the midst of a second space race here. The first one was with the Soviet Union. Back during the Cold War era, and now today we are hoping to get back because there is a national security interest in space and establishing the ultimate high ground. The president is hoping to establish through this national space policy, which is actually an executive order about establishing space superiority, making sure that we are projecting American dominance in the ultimate high ground. So that will include life-changing science and crewed missions and all kinds of things, including a nuclear reactor on the moon and including establishing a lunar base where we can continually send American astronauts up to the moon and hopefully establish a persistent lunar presence.
Do you anticipate that a lunar base would be fully a military base, or do you think it would be part military, part commercial, part civilian? What is the vision of that?
This specific lunar base will be entirely civilian. Actually, under President Trump, we established the Artemis Accords. We now have over 60 nations that are partners with us in that endeavor to keep space exploration peaceful and transparent. So the lunar base that we're talking about over here at NASA will be entirely civilian. However, it is worth noting that CNSA, the Chinese National Space Agency, is both civil and military space. So they potentially are going with militaristic endeavors.
And this Artemis rocket, I want to ask you about the nature of the rocket. Who built it? This is not a SpaceX rocket, but I know NASA is working with companies like SpaceX on its endeavors. Kind of talk to us about this specific rocket that we're using this year, how you partner with SpaceX, and how sort of it all works together, government with private companies, as we look to the future of space.
Absolutely. NASA has a huge coalition of commercial partnerships. The specific rocket that we're using for this mission and for Artemis 3 is the SLS, which is the Space Launch System. That is built by Boeing in conjunction with other commercial partners. And then the actual spacecraft that the crew will be inside, the Orion spacecraft, is built by Lockheed Martin. There are other components of the mission. You mentioned SpaceX, who's building us a human landing system for Artemis 3. Blue Origin is also building a human landing system for a later Artemis mission. So there's so many people that are involved in this. Axiom is building the spacesuits, and there are many more that are helping us to meet these critical goals.
Now, ultimately, when you send astronauts back to the moon, which you hope to do before Trump leaves office, how do you choose them? I mean, there's obviously people in the astronaut program, but for the Americans who are going to set foot on the moon for the first time in over 50 years, how does the administrator, how does the program go about choosing those special people who are going to, that'll be one of the biggest events of Donald Trump's entire administration. It'll be one of the biggest events in decades for the world. How do you pick those people?
Absolutely. It's very exciting. We pick these people based on merit alone. We have an incredibly accomplished astronaut corps. They're all based out of Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, and we have many people who are ex-military. We have accomplished medical professionals. We have people who have experience that's derived from all different sectors, and that leads us to an incredibly talented astronaut pool to choose from. We have yet to establish or choose the Artemis 3 astronauts, but there's not really a way that you can go wrong when we have as much talent as we do here at NASA. So it's definitely a big decision, and I'm excited to see who the agency ends up choosing. That's a decision that will be made between the astronaut office out of Houston and the chief astronaut, along with the administrator and leadership at NASA, as well as obviously the White House and the president.
That voice